When people tell me you're too obsessive at what it is you do. You're too obsessive at picking things apart. You ask too many questions. I have to tell the common fool you're not inquisitive enough. The average man and woman is not inquisitive enough. That's why so many more people could be, no, I shouldn't say it like that. I'm saying a lot more people will be more further in life. Yes, in their own life. If they were in fact a figurative individual and trying to be more inquisitive. Taking a look at life, taking a look around life, looking at all the details, looking at everything and not just one thing, right? Which is why so many... See, I already know what my issue is. My issue is I call things out as I see them. That's in fact my personality, which is why I oftentimes tell people if they get their feelings hurt very quickly, they might not want to spend a lot of time around me. Because I call out the truth for what it is. And I said that how many times? So you got in fact losers in this world, and they must in fact be told that they're losers. Did I say that in one of my other videos? I can't even remember if I said that. Did I say that? They're in fact, yes, they're in fact losers in the family. Yes, they in fact have to be told when there's an issue, I'm saying. Because even me myself have been known to be a loser at times. And sometimes I still can be. And yet when I have a loser moment, I in fact have to fix that sort of thing. I can't just sit around and say, well, you know, I have a problem. So let me just gossip on the phone with 50 million people about that problem. And then not think I'm going to actually solve it. Because that's how a loser in fact stays a loser. To have a problem is to fix it. You don't go all up and down the block sitting up here bragging that you got a problem or holding loose face commotion with the fact that there's a problem unless you have something at the end of, say, solving it. Because at the end of the day, you are in fact, what is it? You receive the short end of this deal or the short end of the stick if you got a problem and you ain't gonna fix it. Because an individual like me, I hate hearing people problems depending on who the individual is. I mean, if you're willing to fix a problem, then yes, I can help you with that. As in, I will allow my ear to, in fact, train the room to have the floor. But if you ain't gonna fix nothing, I'm sorry to say you are in fact sorry. And I have to tell you that to your face, whether it's loved ones, whether it's close family, friends, whoever it is. Because this whole walking around blaming other races of people, knowing that you are in fact sorry, is why you're in the situation that you are. You won't face yourself. And that goes for anybody. That can go for a celebrity of any kind. I will tell them just as much. To get into a situation is to in fact get out of the situation by bagging out of the situation. By in fact taking your time and even sometimes quietness, as in being still trying to figure out the situation. People that don't want to do that in fact possess loose screws of some sort. I don't have the patience. So I might as well be open on that. Because see, there's people that get their feelings hurt. They want to be around me. And yet they say, you're too vocal. You say stuff with harsh intent. No, I say things with the right intent. Not the wrong. Because every time I look around and I see that the world has ill things going on, human beings are in fact causing those things in areas where they refuse to solve the situation. So you can't say, well, society is to blame for society's problems. Yes, that in fact is the fact. But many people can't say society is the root cause of everything, and I am not. No, you are in fact the root cause, dear human being. Even at times myself. But when I have a problem, usually if I got a problem, an individual may not hear from me for days on end because I'm busy trying to sort out that situation. I'm not about to let no problem hang over my head and me not try to do something with that. Because remember, to not solve a problem is in fact suffer with that sort of thing. And that's what's so funny. And sometimes you got to laugh in the faces of those that are the common fool. Where they won't fix their problems. And yet they busy sitting up here crying out to God, crying out to whoever done made whatever, crying out to man-made people and institutions and pointing fingers about who's the root cause of their problems. But my thing is, once again, if you're suffering and you're suffering deeply, it could be your problem and not somebody else's. Fix your problems. So I said that once too many times, and I just say it again. I'm one of them individuals, I don't have the time or the patience for that sort of thing. Because remember, to not fix a personal problem is to allow that sort of thing to weight somebody else's shoulders. Which is why the world is so messed up. Because to let your problems go and not fix them is to allow it to weigh on somebody else's shoulders, in which they got to fix. Each individual is responsible for their own situation, is all I'm saying. And whoever has issues with that, that's in fact their problem. Because as I said it on Twitter, many individuals can't face real life. And that is why too many people walk away from problems. How you gonna get any, that's off the hook. I knew an individual that wanted, did I say that before? Wanted to be a millionaire. She kept saying she wanted to be a millionaire. And I'm thinking to myself, but you crying about the little small specks you got, as in the small specks of dust that life has handed you. How are you gonna manage $1 million if you can't even keep with the things that you have? That poses a problem in the area. You need to face the fact that you got to come out of failurehood, and even that, or where you mismanage and can't handle even small things. That's one of my pet peeves. I, in fact, actually run everybody out of the room. I've been known to in the past run everybody out of the room. But as I finish on this video, babysitter. I wrote this down. I didn't memorize this, so I don't know which direction we're going to go. I'll make it quick. Okay, so babysitter. This should have been one of the very first questions that I should have asked in the beginning. And yet I didn't. Things are done when they're supposed to. Let me see. Asia degree. Having any babysitters? That's my question. Could have Asia had any male or female babysitters, despite being a latchkey kid? Her and her brother being a latchkey kid. And despite them being known to be a tight-knit family. I said, question, who was known to babysit both Asia and her brother, or babysit one or the other? You know how some people babysit one child and yet they don't babysit the other child because one child is older, which usually most likely isn't babysat, but the other one is. But to be that close in age is to say both of them could possibly have been babysat. And I'm asking this because it's been said in the sense that there was no babysitter around, but I choose to disagree on that, because it's been known that even families have get-togethers that don't sometimes involve the family, such as special outings, occasions, and stuff like that. So that's why I'm asking this. Who was known to babysit both Asia and her brother, or babysit one or the other? I said sometimes one child is younger than the other, yes. Such as siblings, yes. Sometimes parents will provide someone close to the family in the form of a babysitter, even when it say not after school, or say when the parents have things to do on occasions and need someone to provide for that child for a time period. There have been, in fact, latchkey kids where sometimes they are provided with a babysitter. Does that make sense? Yeah, it makes sense. Just because latchkey kids don't mean that they're always allowed to be latchkey kids. Sometimes other individuals in the family, sometimes outside of the family, sometimes around the family are in fact given keys to come in, even at night, even in the middle of the night, have access to the house 24 hours a day. And sometimes a possibility for even one of those individuals to babysit, say, a young Asia or her brother, when the family would go out to events. It helps to be specified in even that, the questioning aspect. Root cause of things going missing, right? So a latchkey kid. A latchkey kid is usually a child that lets themselves in and out when the parents aren't around. They're prone to after school let themselves in the house. Instead of going to say a daycare, children are provided with a key to their own home to allow themselves in and out. I was one of those kids. My brother was also one of those kids. But from time to time, depending on, say, if the parents were to go to events or to an event from time to time, how long they might have been gone, and say they might not have wanted the children to be there by themselves, because it have been proven fact that sometimes parents do provide their kids with babysitters. That sound in a sense like it's offset, like the question, as if it's an offset question, because them two things don't go together, but yet it does. Because see, there could be a church event of some kind going on later in the day, and say the parents are used to the children making their way coming in and out of the house, right? This is being on school days. But say if a church event is going late, running late into the night, and say the parents might not have taken the children with them to that event on that day, they would in fact provide somebody as a provider to look over the children. And more than likely, one of those individuals had to have a key to let themselves in and out the door, or maybe not have had a key. So, yep, latchkey kids. Both Asia and her brother held onto their own keys to let themselves in and out of the house after school, as it's been stated. But nowhere has it been stated that the parents could have used a babysitter. Didn't I just state that? I said that like 3 or 4 times. Used a babysitter type figure to watch the children from time to time, where it was once again a close family friend or relative who could have done that sort of thing from time to time. It's all type of families all around us that allow their latchkey kids to allow themselves in and out. But when events do come up, they do in fact have somebody. And oftentimes, if it's a close-knit family like that, usually it will be an outside relative. And when I mean outside, I mean somebody that is outside of the house and they don't live within the 4 walls of the house, right? Somebody they would think the family would more than likely consider to be more protective, because to be that close-knit is to provide somebody that's not loose around the handle, right? I'm saying, dealing with Asia and her brother, if there was a possible babysitter from time to time for events or something, church events, family gatherings that don't, say, involve children. And when I mean family, I don't really mean blood relative when I say gathering, because some, like I said, some church events have family gatherings. It's all type of organizations that have all type of gatherings for individuals, and sometimes children are not allowed to go to those sort of things. Meetings, I would say town hall meetings, but that sort of thing don't fit with this. That don't fit the description of town hall meeting. But see what I'm saying? If that makes sense. Because I'm thinking, if you go to church, what other type of meetings would you be involved in? Let's see. Some people, I'm thinking even in the summertime, if I had kids and say I was deeply involved with the church heavily, I know some church members go to brunch in the summer, but this with Asia happen in the winter, but I'm just giving examples because it can pinpoint to anything pertaining to a babysitter time frame, as well as events, going places, knowing you can't take children. I know people have choir rehearsal. A lot of times you have many that do take their kids, but some don't. Let me think. There's certain activities at church that involves grown people. You have Bible study. Some people go to Bible study and they don't want to take their children because they don't want to constantly be telling their kid to be quiet or shh and all this and that, right? So they'll either leave the kid at home or leave them with somebody as they go to Bible study. When I stated about the family, how I felt about the family, when I felt like they could have played a part in the disappearance of a young child, right? I still stand in question whether somebody else had a key to that house. I sense that as well. I don't know why that is. When somebody asked and left me a comment, when they said, could it have been a distant relative, or did they say cousin or something like that? I sense that possibly somebody up on the street that lived on the same street might have had a key. And when I had wrote down some notes, I got some notes. See, some of my notes are in fact old notes that go all the way back to April, right? Let me see. Yep, right here. Let me see. Cousin, uncle, family, friend. That's a good question, because that's like one of them real good questions. Could somebody have had a key and been able to allow themselves in and out of the premises at night? That sort of thing has to remain in question, because see, for a close-knit family to live all up and down the block from each other is to say somebody had to have had a key to allow themselves in and out even that night, as in the late night. Whether the child left out of the house or not. I'm saying whether she was seen down Highway 18 or not, somebody still had to have extra keys to that house. I can't see, that just doesn't make sense. I can't really see my family members living on the same street as me, whether it's aunts, uncles. I would consider uncles more so than aunts, because even that matched the description. But I just can't see living all up and down the street, because like I said before, I know someone where I used to go over to their house and their family lived all up and down, yes, in the country type of area, live all up and down the road, as the country people call it, the road. They lived, yes, and like I had told her, I couldn't see myself doing that sort of thing, because that's how everybody know your business, and that sort of thing lends to fights and everything else. It has to. You can't have no privacy, because when something happened, usually everybody knows about it, right? They usually do, unless you got some type of way to be secretive, and even that, right? But I just can't see blood relatives living up and down a Asia Degree street and nobody having no key. Because to be that tight knit is to know even a grandmother herself or aunt herself or uncle or somebody would in fact know something can in fact happen to those kids as they're in the house by themselves. So somebody might want to time to time go in and check on them. See what I'm saying? Because even young children have been known to cause and start fires by accident. Yes. And I don't mean arsonists. They have been known to actually accidentally set stuff on fire when not paying attention or do other stuff that can impose damage not only on themselves but on the house as well, which is why oftentimes when it's a tight-knit family like that, other individuals, grown individuals, and sometimes cousins, yes, as it was the question was asked to me in the comment section, right? Which is why those individuals have keys. I'm gonna have to go back in April. I made some notes in April, even when I asked about the grandfather, if the grandfather existed. This right here says April. Does that say April? I think it says April. So many of my notes are really old. So we will probably never know. But the question is the question, right? That's what the FBI do all day. They have to. Because when I had made the video, when I said Relisha Rudd, when I made the video about her, how oftentimes the missing child is not always a missing child. They could in fact be dead. But because their face was already posted, police leave it there until they solve. You can't really, because see, you can't really take down a missing person's flyer or even take down their face until the situation is resolved. Many people in the public don't know that if I remove a missing person's face away from the public, everybody will think, well, what happened, right? That'd be the number one question. What happened? Are they dead or alive? Was they put in somebody's car? What in fact happened to that missing individual, whether it's man, woman, child, or whatever, right? So you have to leave those sort of things up. The missing person flyer, even if police, FBI know that somebody killed the individual, and they may not never say, right? Because if the crime stays the crime as it is, as all these crimes of these missing persons, it's missing people or missing persons that, as I stated before, many of them go in the Rocky Mountains, in Alaska, and Yosemite Park, and all them other environments, and they become lost in the woods, right? And police know in fact that they're dead. But to leave their face up is to just do just that, right? Because that helps even many family members in the grieving process with that. Because that individual, just because a person say go walks and gets lost in the park, more than likely they're dead. Yes, Yosemite Park, Rocky Mountain, Alaska, that's a proven fact. Even Oregon, because they're real wooded as well. But to not have a body, that's what it points to. That's the direction in that. As in the closure aspect of why many of these missing persons cases go unresolved, because they're not solved. And I'm saying unresolved pertaining to the missing person flyer coming down despite FBI and everybody else knowing that they're dead, right? More so FBI police, chief police. It's because if you didn't have a body, once you have a body, that's to say it's been solved. If somebody walk out their front door or even run out their front door, even if it was a young age of degree, and say somebody really seen her as an eyewitness, witnesses stated, that in fact will point to a conclusion if, say, her body was found in the woods. You have to have a body to close a case of a missing person's case. And most people, they don't know that. They don't. That's not to say. See, when I say stuff, people say, well, you think you know this, you think, no, that's not that. That's just common sense that if a missing person is missing, right? That because it's people that I'm close to, they want to argue about how they think I think. Yes, close in the family, close to the family, think you know it all. That ain't it. But that's when a missing person's, what is a person's? A person's is in fact a individual which consists of a body, whether it's alive or it's dead. So to not have that body be found is to in fact say the flyer has to stay up. The missing persons. Because that's even the pursuit on the police. It's many people that go missing and it's been 50, 60 years now and they're still not found, right? Even the body hasn't been found. But say if the body is found, then there's your conclusion. But if the body is never found, then they can just be missing persons for life. That sort of thing, it happens every day for many people. It might happen today and the conclusion might not come till another 30 years from now when somebody walk up on something and run into some bones or something, and it's got to be traced back through a lab room or something, right? So, yeah. Persons means body, whether it's alive or dead. If you don't have no body, you can't close any case. It has to, in fact, stay as that. So, I think that's all to be said about this. Babysitter. Could they have had a babysitter? I can't think of any other events, because to have been in church is to know where church folks go. Unless say they're sneaking out at night to have an affair with a man or a woman. And they might need a babysitter for that. But I can't really see that sort of thing. But I don't know. That was a good question from the individual in the comment section, because when I made my notes, I got a lot of notes I have yet to even be printed on this camera, right? And even your question points in with that as well. when I got the question in the comment section, could it have been a distant relative, possibly a cousin? I asked that same thing, but I'm kind of late coming to the table and me putting some of that, because see, I ask all around the corner, and when you ask me that, if it could have been a distant relative or a cousin or something like that, I kind of was like, no, because I kept looking at the actual immediate family of Asia. Like, this don't make sense for there not to be no type of breaking in, trying to get in. She had to either leave out, possibly not, right? Or somebody had to have a key to allow themselves in. Because that don't seem right to me, for all those family members to live on that block and none of them have a key. As in being able to gain entrance or gain entry into their house. The only, to be very honest and awake and not sleeping, that pertaining to the question, the only other individual, let me be real rightfully honest, seeming everybody get mad at everything else I say. Not right here on YouTube. Some individuals have gotten mad at me, but I don't even care about that, because that's their loss and not mine, to not face real life. But the only other individual I can think that will say if somebody was to take that young child or any young child at night, but let's just use her, seeming as her case. The only other individual I could really see is an uncle. An uncle. One of Asia's uncles or something like that. A male figure or some kind. And not a womanly figure. I can't see that sort of thing. I don't know why that is. I just can't see no woman getting up and say, come on, Asia, we about to sneak out. We about to go wherever, right? I can't see that. I could see a man doing that sort of thing. Possible child molester on top of that, because even that has to have a motive. You're not just going to even take your own niece of some kind unless something is behind that. If I go way outside of that, as in go way outside of the picture, knowing I think every which way, if say molestation, let's look at an uncle. If an uncle, what will be a motive of an uncle taking Asia out of her house by ways of say keys, jingling keys that the parents might not have heard? If say she wasn't recognized on Highway 18, and say if that was some other individual, right? I could see the uncle taking her and possibly killing her, because he may have been the individual that was molesting her outside of the house. Say if Asia was prone to spend the night over an uncle's house, right? Aunt, uncle house, if they lived together, whatever. If he was say molesting her or something like that, and to keep her quiet and keep her all the way quiet, I could see an uncle doing that sort of thing. Possibly sneaking out of his own house, having a key. Because I'm thinking, would the aunt or the uncle have a key? Being able to get into Asia's house, right? The aunt or the uncle will have a key. Possibly both of them. Because wasn't it stated before that that's where the young child will go to spend a night? Or something like that. Usually where a person is known to go over the house the most to spend a night are usually the same individuals that are known to have keys to those houses. Of where the child is coming from to spend night over their house, right? That just makes logical sense, that if a child is coming to spend a night over my house, then I might in fact have a key to her house, depending on how much she's coming to stay at my house. A uncle, a family uncle, and not an aunt. Because see, the only reason why I could see, we can flip the box back and forth. The only way I could see an aunt, say, sneaking in, snooping into an Asia degree house where the family, everybody sleep, including the brother, is say if abuse is going on and she want to help the child get out of that. So she will what? Bury the bag. have her get in the car somewhere. But I can't really see even that. I can't see you allowing a child to walk way down Highway 18, you being the aunt, and meet you somewhere, because you being the aunt will know that child will more than likely get snatched up. So you would in fact want to meet her around the corner, because even family members have been known to do that sort of things as an abduction taking place, right? Sometimes people that have had keys to the house or whatnot have in fact played a part in even that, right? Helping a abused child or being molested child being abused or molested. A key figure could do something like that in a person's life. Somebody that will say close to them, really close to them, just enough for say even the child. Because see, look, if a young girl is say being molested by even her own father or something like that crazy, I could see a young child timid, yes, like that, outing that sort of thing to say a family auntie of some kind, depending on how the auntie is in with her. You mean, you know what I'm saying? When I say in, I mean, well, how can I say this? If you got a young timid girl, she's more than likely, if abuse is going on, she's more than likely going to keep that sort of thing to herself, right? The secret aspect. And so a aunt would more than likely be in with that individual, as in knowing about that sort of thing may have taken place, as in abuse, if it taken place, such as sexual abuse. I could see a young Asha opening up to a aunt, a womanly figure in the house and not outside the house, opening up to an aunt and telling her about that sort of thing. But the only way I could see her doing that, a young Asha being open and vocal, is if the aunt kind of like somewhat pressure the child, knowing that something is wrong. But I'm thinking that auntie has to be a very lovingly figure, not hard like me. I run everybody away. But she would more than likely have to be real soft demeanor to step into that sort of situation, as in on the toes, Asha's toes, her own, to get that sort of information out of her. That sort of thing, yes, it can be a womanly figure getting that sort of information, and not somebody outside of the family. So the only way I could see a aunt playing into that is if, say, something like that was at play. It was said that Asha was known to spend night over her aunt and uncle house, right? I'm just using the aunt for example. If that information came across, because even aunts can see into stuff like that where something is not right, and they're known to take their self down a few notches, as in the hardness. Myself, I'm not really good at that sort of thing, but there are aunts that do that, and they'll pry information out of the child, and then they'll keep the secret, and then more than likely they'll take the child off, run off somewhere, right, and hand her and have her live in another state with somebody to escape that sort of thing, because no aunt wants to have their niece or something be living amongst that. I'm saying, if you ask me about the possibilities of who could have done what, could an aunt have played into that? If a person didn't run away, but they left town and they left with somebody else, then I can see maybe a possible aunt or somebody, because that's really the only other individual I could see having a key, possibly able to get in. An aunt, an uncle, or somebody that has access close enough to that family, tight-knit family at that, to get in and out. But you got to look at who the young child was around the most when it pertains to keys, getting in and out, despite them being latch keys. Some people let that bypass their eyes, or say, could somebody have let themselves in, and what type of abuse was at play? Because see, I don't think myself I would allow something like that. I possibly would throw whoever in jail, even if there's a family member, right? I'm saying if molestation or abuse was at play in that, because I don't like that type of stuff, especially molestation. Sorry, you got to go to jail. That's just me. But everybody's not like that. They would, in fact, give a helping hand by helping the child sneak out and sending them off to somebody in another state. That sort of thing does play out. Trust and believe it does. And more than likely an auntie would do that. But if it was a uncle, I would have to question that as well, because for a child to be spending the night over, say, an aunt and uncle house, you never know what type of man even he was. Even they are known to creep in the bedroom of little girls. You don't know, and want to keep that thing silenced. Just like I said about the father. Reason why Asia supposedly left. Could have been that sort of thing. But even with an uncle, it could have been that sort of thing. Nobody knows what goes on in people's homes. And you can't be, what's the word for it? Not nonchalant, but you can't be naive. I'm possibly going to get a likes down for this video. I have no care for even that. I don't care about anything. All I care about is the truth pertaining to the scientific matter, as in exposing the truth of where the world hates to see things that is going on, real life things, whatever. I don't have a care about what comes out my mouth. If you're offended, that is in fact your fault and not my own. Because even intrusion could have played a part in even that, pertaining to, say, an aunt or uncle and a supposed abduction. No one ever knows, so allow me to speak in what I'm going to say. So, I stated what an aunt would have did if she knew abuse was at play. Let me see. If an uncle, I just can't really see him taking her and sending her somewhere off. I can possibly more see him murdering her with an intention of molestation. Many of these men out here, I don't know what's going on with all this child abuse and that situation. There's a lot going on with the cruelty there, as in taking advantage of children when they don't want that sort of thing. So uncle, I can't really see. I can see him putting her to bed and all the way to bed, as in getting rid of her, just as much as I can see a father doing that. If, say, abuse was that in that situation. I can't see a man sending a child off somewhere unless, say, it's that child's blood father if abuse is going on. I can't see an uncle doing that. But yeah, that's just interesting. The more I think about the situation, it's really interesting. Could I think a cousin, a distant cousin? I'm thinking to myself, because I did question that, and that's interesting that the Taylor individual that you asked that as well, but I didn't never put it, like I said, that put it on video. All these go back to April. That's why I didn't put them on here. Could have had been a distant relative. I didn't say distant relative. I said relative, more like up close, near, and not far, like immediate. Some people say distant relative and they mean aunt and uncle, but I just say relative when I mean aunt and uncle. If a cousin, I'm thinking to myself, if a cousin would do that, then they couldn't have been close in age. Everything revolves around motive. What's the motive? What's the purpose and religion on even that? What will be a motive of, say, an older cousin even taking a child to possibly escape abuse? Maybe so. But I'm thinking over time, that sort of thing will possibly weigh on the individual. Depending on who the cousin is or was pertaining to that will more likely weigh on the individual. Or maybe not, who knows? Whether male or female. But I just can't see, that's why I said motive, because motive does play into everything, but I just can't see a relative just taking a child in that and say possibly just killing her or just giving her off to somebody in another state. Something has to be more with that. As in an angry dispute is what I'm trying to say. You just don't take a young child at 9 years old, that timid and lovable, and then say, hand her off to somebody in another state or just kill her if somebody didn't make you mad or angry. That right there, yeah, that's not really like a link. I can't really see that being a link. Because if it was a cousin, more than likely that cousin would have had to been in their teen years. You see what I'm saying? Of some sort. And not much older, as in a 30, 40-year-old man. That just, yeah, that seems kind of off. Unless he himself was molesting her. And just to get rid of her is just to dump the body or something crazy, right? I don't think that sort of thing was like at play with a relative like that. Unless it was an aunt or uncle, one of the aunt or uncles at the house where she was going. Because you always have to look at what's the motive. Everything carries a motive, even if it's in sexual abuse. To have a motive of sexual molestation, rape, or anything else like that, and say get rid of somebody, as in kill them off, is to say that was in fact the motive in that. The point and position was to get rid of them so they possibly may not ever bring it up or not ever say, or if they mentioned it, what happened, such as the rape or molestation, so they don't ever mention it again. That's why people get rid of people in the form of dead bodies pertaining to that, if it's family or something like that. But just to send somebody off if no drugs or nothing is involved, I can't really see that happening. Because it all points to what's the motivation, basically. When I say motive, what is the motivation behind that? There has to be some motivation of why you want to do that. All of us human beings carry some type of motivation to the things, what it is that we do, or motive. There's a reason why. Even in friendship, why am I with this friend? There has to be a reason why I'm in a relationship with this friendship. I'm just not going to be in this friendship just to be in this friendship. No, there has to be more to that. If I'm real close to a family member, why am I there? If I'm an aunt or uncle and I'm real close to my nieces and nephew, there's a motive and motivation to that as well. There's a motivation to everything. Motive. So if I'm close to my nieces and nephews, as in really close, that right there represents ties. But what else carries more with that ties? As an example. Am I there being an aunt or uncle or whatever, right? Pointing to Asia's family. Am I being there because I want to be a close-knit, make sure that they're provided for, saying the nieces, nephews, right? Or am I there to get something else? Because see, you either in a situation to say, try to help in a situation, as in lead and guidance or something in a situation, or you're there just to take something. It's one or the two. Most people can't even see that, the life abstraction. Or the give and take and everything else. Give and take and motivation of you being in somebody's life. Why are you there? What's the reason? Because see, to not understand even that can in fact impose problems on a situation as well. If you don't know why you're in a situation, it's best to get out of it. Or think why you're in it from the beginning or somewhere halfway through. Because it will in fact cause some type of issue. Because some people get in things for the wrong intention. I myself have did stuff like that, got into situations for the wrong intention, and then had to go back and fix. Why am I here? Why did I choose to do this or that? Why did I choose to become friends with this or that? Because sometimes the intention is wrong from the beginning. And then sometimes it's oftentimes right. It's just the way that a person placed themselves there. So it could point back even with family members, an aunt and uncle that may have been keeping a child. You can be loving, caring, and that's your position. Or you can be there to take the innocence away from a child, such as molestation. It's one of the two. And all this. Cause and effect. So, I just can't see a cousin just saying, let's go run off. That don't make sense. Because more than likely, if your cousin, if you didn't kill the individual, the young child, right? If a cousin is going to have motivation to run off with somebody at that age, 9 years old, then something might in fact be wrong with them. Because the only way I can see somebody doing that is to try to pull them away from abuse or something and sending them off to another state and have them change their whole identity, possibly shaving their hair off and everything else to make them a little less, I don't know, fashionable, cute, or something of some kind. But I can't see a cousin being older, a little bit older, or ways away older, and just taking a child and skipping states. That doesn't make sense. There has to be more to even that. They had to have been slighted by the parents or something. You see what I'm saying? When I mean slighted, been in some miscommunication or have some hatred of the parents or something. And I can't even see that. I don't know why I can't see that. You just because see that that's no commonality. First of all, I can't really see a older cousin say taking somebody as 9 years old and sending her off somewhere and then not stay in communication with that child. They would have more likely killed her or something crazy like that. Because remember, to be 9 years old is to know you can't even see your way around life. You're too young. So you're going to have to be guided by somebody. And not only that, there's a trust factor. And even that, taking a child away from their family and shipping them and sending them off somewhere despite you being blood relative, you will more likely want to stay in communication if there was no heavy motive. There had to have been a motive for you to want to take her out the house. And it could have been abuse, but you would still more likely want to stay in touch with her. You wouldn't just want to give her off to somebody random or give her off to another distant relative, because anything can go bad with that. The situation I'm saying, sending a 9-year-old child off, you being a relative, just sending her off to some other relative in a whole nother state. I don't think that sort of thing happened, because that relative would in fact have wanted to stay in touch. And I bet, like I said before, I bet FBI and all of them have been known to tap phones and all that. Because when my uncle got murdered, they did that sort of thing. So, usually relatives want to stay in touch if they're shipping a child somewhere to escape something, such as abuse. Because, see, that points to closeness anyway, a close bond for you to say be a relative and want to take a child 9 years old, sweet, intimate, and send her to somebody. That's to say you in fact love the young girl enough to get her away from an abusive house and put her somewhere in another house that's not abusive, but it could be out of state. I can't see them just staying in the same state. I could see them going off way somewhere else. So to put yourself in a situation like that is to say you possibly more than likely really cared for that child. Not enough to allow her to see herself or way around other individuals and you just walking out of the picture. I can't see that. I don't know. I can't see that at all. Because it helps someone escape a situation is to say you're going to be checking in and on their well-being once they're out of the situation. As in, if you help make a child her way out of a situation, if it's abusive, there's no way it's going to be a disconnect in that. And the police more than likely would have found out by now. Trust and believe they would have found out something. Because FBI, police, all of them are known to drop into people's house randomly. That's how that one mother, the grandmother and the mother, was a story about a grandmother and mother. The father, in fact, served in military. And he wanted custody of his son because it was a disagreement with him and the mother, which is like a lot of these missing persons, children more so cases, happen with abduction. A lot of times it involves the parents more so than anything, more so than outsiders. A lot of times outsiders don't really completely have anything to do with that sort of thing, unless it was just some random opportunist. But a lot of times the missing persons, children cases involve the parents. Yes, it does. So he served in the military. He was doing a good deed to humanity as a whole. The grandmother and the mother hated his guts. And in them hating his guts, they didn't want him to have the little boy as in full custody or whatnot. Or partial custody, whatever the situation was. And so they ended up taking the little boy and hiding him in the wall of a house, the grandmother's house. Yes, behind the dresser, there was in fact a hole where the child and the child's mother was later on discovered alive, right? Not dead, alive. Where the grandmother and the mother was hiding the boy just so the little boy the father couldn't get custody. That is in fact off the hook. And the little boy, I think it was for 2 years, they hid him like that in that house. And the police came out and said once they let him out the car, yes, when the police finally got to the car, right? Got the little boy to the car, he ran around the car like he had never been outside. Remember, he was gone for what? 2 years he was missing, but that whole time he was in that grandmother's house hidden away. The mother and the grandmother had did such a thing. Hid him in a wall. I can't remember if they said it was a 6x6 or how big the hole was in the wall. But how that situation played out was the mother and the grandmother was both of them at that house. But how the whole situation played out, the police, they dropped in. Yes, they do that. That is in fact purpose for them to do that. For the police to just randomly just drop in on a family when a child goes missing, because see, even they know something is not right about the situation. Which is why police usually drop in and out, and the family don't know that it's coming, as in coming to hit them, even themselves in the face. Because to know many of these missing children are going missing because of custody battles and all this other stuff that involves the parents is to, yes, in fact, have police, FBI, and everybody else drop in and out constantly. Because they're like, okay, something is not right. How does a child just come up missing, and then that is that? Police knows that's not the end of the story. The parents more than likely could have done something with that situation. Which is why in their intuition, I guess they chose to go back to the grandmother's house, is how the situation fell in their lap of that was what it was, and them being caught, the grandmother and the mother. And it's so sad in the end, the father, it's not so sad, but on their end it is, that the grandmother got convicted. I think she got convicted and served some time, as well as the mother got convicted or something and served some time or is serving some time, and the father got full-blown custody. And he kind of deserved it. Because see, yes, he kind of deserved that, because that made no sense on the grandmother and the mother end, knowing they weren't too fit from the beginning. You see what I'm saying? This man served in military, and they tried to say, well, he was abusing, when they said, the grandmother and the mother said, well, he was abusing a young boy. No, he wasn't. They just didn't want him to have that young boy. That's how it happens. That's how missing, and people have been known to get so mad that they don't want the other individual, sometimes even a spouse in divorce or whatever, they don't want that individual to have custody of the children. It's been known that they in fact have killed, murdered, and buried the child themselves in a ditch or a hole somewhere, and set plants and stuff like that on top of it, because to feel that, oh, in a custody battle my child might be taken away from me. Some of them people can't deal with that sort of thing, so they just rather go off and kill the child. And some people have been known to even kill themselves, which is why you'll hear missing persons where say the whole family is missing and they can't be found. That's because somebody probably done went way out in the woods and killed the children first and then killed themselves. But they probably so far out in a remote area, police probably wouldn't be able to find them no way, because it's remote. Being far out, I'm saying. But don't turn the channel in that. You might in fact learn something. Why some of these cases, people do all type of stuff when it involves custody battles and all that type of stuff. How you see, well, mother went missing. What did I see? It was something about first the child went missing, and then the mother went missing. And more than likely the father has something to do with even that, because to say you won't whatever, right, is to possibly say you might in fact have taken their child and handed the child off to somebody to hold until you got time on your hand enough to go kill the mother. so that you can in fact get their child. But in order to live like that, as I say, you will possibly have to move to another country or move to another state and change the whole child's identity. Didn't that happen to that little boy? I think that did in fact happen to, there was a little boy, him and his father. His father left, skipped town with him and didn't tell the little boy. And come to find out, when the little boy tried to register, he's now a grown man. When he tried to register for college, he couldn't get in because his number was locked out, his social security number. Anytime a person goes missing, many people don't know that either. But to say is to say, right? Share information. Anytime a missing person goes missing, such even a child, right, and they're 5, 6 years old, is to say that police, FBI, chief of police, all of them are going to in fact lock a social security number out pertaining to that number not being able to be used. There's all, it's all type of ways to track individuals is what I'm trying to say. That's why in fact they in fact locked the young child out of his, well, he's possibly, is he around my age? He might be a little bit younger. I think he in his 20s. But his father took him out of the picture, away from his mother, moved to a whole different state somewhere, city, state, right? Didn't tell the mother. The little boy didn't know he was missing. I think he was going to school and everything. Or was he? I'm gonna have to look much more deeper into that. But didn't tell the child, look, well, you're a missing child, because who's gonna do that, especially once you abduct your own child, right? He did that. The little boy grows up, try to apply for college, knows that he can't get in. He can't get in registering. So he has to contact whatever just to get in. Yes, because that's how you track missing persons. You in fact lock everything down. More than likely a missing, not a missing, but a social security number, you in fact lock that sort of thing out, because to know that one day they might pop up as in the missing child is to be discovered. And even that, because you can't really do anything in this world without a social security number. Here in America, more so. You can't even apply to go to college without that sort of thing, which is why FBI, in fact, locked that sort of thing down. Because to have you just randomly pop up like he did to apply for college, and yet his social security number was completely locked out, as in he couldn't use it, was why FBI did it like that. Which is why today he's no longer a missing person, and he was in shock himself to even know he was missing from the beginning. His father had to have told him some type of story of why they left. Parents do that sort of thing all the time with these missing children. They give them some lie type of story of why they're leaving and why they can't go back home. Even if the child is all teary-eyed, sobbing and crying. Mothers and fathers have been known to do that sort of thing, even in their corruption. Because more than likely they don't want the other parent to have the child, which is why they do that in the first place. The motive. The motive is usually the other parent. Which was the situation with even that. The father taking the boy. And his mom just dazed and confused of what? But yeah. So the police caught that as soon as he, was locked out with that social security number. And they, in fact, identified him being alive. And they should have. That's what people have to understand. Even in that, when people say, well, couldn't they have, if a child ever goes missing, couldn't they have, say, been given to somebody? Couldn't they have, because they have to grow up. More than likely, they're not going to be able to use their own social security number, and even that. Because not to say anything bad about Mexicans, but Mexicans do in fact come to America, and they in fact run rings, as in identity rings of them being able, you can buy a fake identity from Mexicans. Yes, you can when they come here, right? Even a supposed missing child, if say an adult took them, could even buy that type of thing, a fake identity. Just so for the child to be able to make their way around going to facilities that they need, such as wanting to go to college or something crazy like that, right? you can in fact buy a fake identity from a Mexican or from somebody who is selling those sort of things. But you can't be a missing child for long going missing and then think you're going to use your old number or identity to get into something, because remember, police has that locked down. They have it locked all the way down so that that is in fact a trace, which is why it's locked down. If Asia Degree popped up when people were saying, where was I at when I was online somewhere, and they was like, more than likely something about they was saying Asia Degree. I saw something online. It was some guy. I saw something online and it had something to do with Facebook, and Asia Degree was somewhere working. What did they say? They said Asia Degree, something about she's of age. Could that sort of thing have happened where she left on her own? She's of age, and something about they were saying she was working as a waitress or something. I'm like, well, if she ever have to go do something with her number, her social security number, or anything else, if that sort of thing is ever at play, trust and believe that identity is going to in fact pop up as a missing person. It has to, because that has to be tracked to know. So I'm like, more likely that couldn't have been her. Whoever was saying whatever, when they said, well, she was a waitress or something, I'm like, no, I don't think that was her. Because you got to understand how the numbers work, as in the numbers roll, and them being a missing persons and them popping up randomly like that. Trust and believe FBI, chief of police, police officers, whatever, pertaining to Asia Degree case done locked her all the way, even out her own stuff. They have had to. That's more likely not her. If you ever see some individual, unless say she homeless. When I spoke on Lynette, it's a individual by that name, and she's in fact homeless, sleeping out of her car, and she kind of favors Asia, and she served in military and all that other stuff, right? She lives out in, where does she live at? She lives out by the Compton area, out California, right? And so I myself was like, well, you got to think, if a person looks like someone, I'm saying the suspicious aspect, when you think that somebody is missing, possibly could be missing, right? And then they grow up and then they form a new identity. They can't do that sort of thing for long, as in a connection has to be brought even in that. So I'm saying, if say I saw her and she served in military, right? That more than likely couldn't have been her, unless say she bought a fake identity from somebody. But even where she served military, would be able to track and trace even that. You can't really go too far being a missing person, and all these people out here saying, well, such and such was doing this, or I seen, more than likely when somebody said I seen a girl, more than likely it was Asia Degree on a train. My thing is, you should have stopped her and asked her where was she going. Because if she's going somewhere and she's going to use her identification to do anything, that sort of thing can in fact be tracked. As in, she can't use it. Because even if she was to go to what we call the DMV or the BMV, that's like where you go and you update your license, registration, and all that other stuff, right? And people, when I say it like that, when I say to go update, say your picture and all that other stuff, that type of stuff can be locked out as well by FBI, pertaining to missing persons and missing children going missing, and then somebody one day saying, well, I seen them. You gotta remember, that's a no-go. Thinking that you've seen somebody that looked like that person, more than likely, because identification is behind everything. The track and the trace part is identification is completely behind everything. If the girl that they thought was when that individual said, well, I thought, I seen her and she's a waitress, and they was holding a conversation, many of them was holding a full-blown conversation about how that's more than likely her on Facebook. I'm like, no, that can't be. Because see, even to get paid as a waitress is to know you still got it. Those numbers and all that has to be ran through something for the payout and all that other stuff, right? And an identity has to go with even that, which is what FBI in fact trace. You see what I'm saying? So yeah, you just, that type of stuff I don't get into unless I try to make the connection myself. When I see somebody, when I saw that individual that looked like Asia Degree, that ran across my mind as well. No, more than likely that is a complete no-go. Because if that was truly her, even her living out her car, it's to say, okay, well, she served in military. But remember, when she went missing before whoever this individual was went into military. And that sort of thing would have been traced. There's no way to fake an identity going into military. I don't think that sort of thing could play. That's not a game. That's not a game you would in fact want to play. But you do have Mexicans that in fact, people get mad when I say that, but you do have Mexicans that do in fact play games like that. They do buy fake identities and all this other stuff, right? And not care. Because if they do stuff in their country, they don't care about coming over here doing it. And that's not to even flip them off with that, as in to make them mad, but it's just to say, when people ask, well, how did such and such? Because they didn't have a real identity when they came here. When people get mad at Donald Trump, that's not saying I agree with Donald Trump. That's not saying I'm against Donald Trump. But I'm just saying people in fact do that sort of thing where they come to America and buy some type of identity that is not in fact real. And a missing person could possibly do that same thing. But I don't know. Who's to say? I leave it up to you to figure out pertaining to that. Do you think missing people, missing persons, not children, or maybe so, would form new identities as they're progressing, as in growing older, and then say buy a fake identity off of some man off the street that runs those type of things, rings, fake identification rings? Do you think many missing people do that sort of thing? See, I really don't put anything past anybody, right? I think grown adults would do that. There's in fact a law. There's laws and everything else in place for all type of things, not pertaining to that, but for all sort of things. When it comes to say, many people don't know, but when it comes to say, if I, for example, wanted to run away and didn't want to be here, the law could in fact be on my side if I left my family in devastation by me just leaving, right, and never returning. And say the police come across my pathway and they find me, it's in fact legally my right for me to tell police, FBI, whoever else, chief of police, whoever, that I don't want to be found by my family, right? I in fact legally have that right if I'm an adult individual. Children don't have that right because that's an issue. Somebody has to be responsible for them in the undertaking. But when it comes to you just being a random woman or man, you can in fact leave your house, leave everything behind, even if you're a married man or woman. Married men have been known to do that sort of thing. Married men, yes. Women are more than likely doing it nowadays, probably because of stress or whatever. You never know people's intentions. But men used to do that sort of thing back in the day. Have 50 million kids and then just disappear. But disappear, all the way disappear to the point of missing persons, leaving out of state and forming some new identity. People have that right. Grown adults legally have that right to say to the police, once again, I'm repeating, I don't want to be found, tell my family I'm okay. And then police, FBI, chief of police, whatever, will do that sort of thing. Tell your family just that. And then not tell your family where your whereabouts are. They have to, in fact, keep that sort of information hidden, secret, as in top-notch secret, from even the family. It sounds disrespectful and harsh, and yet it's not. But police, in fact, that's how they handle their job. FBI, that's how they handle their job. Chief of police, all of them. So, I mean, with these missing people, It can point in all type of directions. I could say more than likely because of that sort of thing possibly goes down as, say, a grown man and woman walking out their house, leaving 50 million babies behind and then changing their identity in another state. I can say more than likely those adult individuals possibly do that, form with new registration form, everything, go buy some fake identity, right? I could say possibly, even though I question that, they possibly do that sort of thing just to survive, right? But I could say it's more, a lot harder to solve an adult missing persons crime or something. Well, not really crime, but case. Let me say case. Unless, say, somebody was murdered, then it's more likely easier. Say if a woman was killed, an older white woman with blonde hair, she might look like, what's that movie, Basic Instinct, Sharon Stone? That's my crush, Sharon Stone. Right, my old crush. But I'm saying, solving something like that. This air conditioner is loud, isn't it? Well, I'm towards the end of the video, so it ain't that bad. But solving a case like that, such as somebody being murdered, and it's a crime like that, will possibly be easy. But if they're just a missing persons and you're looking for them, they probably don't want to be found, no way. Majority of them don't. Missing person adults, not missing person children. Teenagers, those types are hard to scope out as well, because for a 16-year-old to just walk up and leave, that's just to say that person want to go be something else and not be a part of the family no more or something. That cases like that is harder to solve, pick them apart, because you don't know why they left and why. Children, solving missing children cases is much more easier, because see, somebody has to be responsible for them after they go missing. See what I'm saying? A missing children's case will more than likely be a little bit more easier to solve and delve deeper, as in who could have committed the crime, even in murder, because somebody has to in fact have responsibility and not custody over that, or possibly custody over that child. There's only so many places they can go, I'm saying. There has to be an adult, even if grooming is involved. There has to be some form of figure, and it's easier to pinpoint on even that, right? But with a missing person's adult or teenager, that's not as so easy, because they might say, well, I'm leaving today, and that's the end of that. And they might be chilling, go smoke some weed in a whole different state, be chilling out with somebody, and that's that. Who knows? Some of these people don't want to be found. So I think that's the end. I got to end this video because the air conditioner is running and I can't hear myself think. Talking over it. So, what do you think? However you think. I want you to tell me what you think, feel, believe.